Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, a massive opportunity for Mario Cristobal, the Miami Hurricanes on the recruiting trail over the weekend, where the amount of talent that's going to be on campus for this Miami Hurricanes program is kind of on another level. And you look at why Mario Cristobal, this Miami Hurricanes program, have been so successful on the recruiting trail. It really starts with just how much work this staff puts in terms of building relationships. I want to focus on the 2025 targets that'll be on campus, but you take a look at the list of 2026 kids. It is incredible. I don't know enough about a lot of these kids to kind of dive into, but I do want to focus on the 2025 class, fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and to the Miami Hurricane fans. It's no secret. I love talking this program on the recruiting trail. The amount of support you guys continue to show to the fellas, it truly does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. If we do get any commitments coming out of the weekend, we will be breaking down the film. And without further ado, let's get into this list. I want to start with at least what I think is the crown jewel for this Miami Hurricanes program in the 2025 cycle. Five-star wide receiver Jaime Ffrench. Now, the Miami Hurricane fans who've been rocking with the fellas all summer know that I think this is a wide receiver that might even be slept on in the recruiting rankings, where he doesn't necessarily have that huge size, doesn't have some verified track and field times. That being said, you talk about pure wide receivers. I think Jaime Ffrench might be one of, if not the best in the class. And I think it starts with the route running ability. He kind of reminds you of a wide receiver like Stephon Diggs, where it's not because he's a blazing guy. It's not because he has a massive frame, but his ability to get in and out of his routes, to create separation, and then excel after the catch. I mean, those are the things. You look at what makes Xavier Restrepo so good for the Miami Hurricanes. That's kind of what Jaime Ffrench brings to the table. I think this is a wide receiver that could operate out on the boundary. I think he could operate as a slot wide receiver, but at the end of the day, you look at what do you want from your wide receivers at the college football level, and quite frankly, at the NFL level too. You want them to get open and be presentable targets for your quarterback. Jaime Ffrench, I think, is the best wide receiver in terms of creating separation and being a quarterback-friendly wide receiver. You take a look at the numbers, it certainly backs up. 62 catches, over 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns during his junior year. This would be one of the more talented wide receivers we've seen come into this Miami Hurricanes program in quite a long time. And again, personally, one of my favorite wide receivers in this 2025 cycle. And you kind of look at who you're going to battle with on the recruiting trail. He was at LSU the other day. He's also looking at Texas and Ohio State. I think those are largely kind of the big contenders for Jaime Ffrench. And I think it's very telling that he decides to come to Miami this weekend. He could have gone to a lot of different programs. He chooses LSU and Miami. So if you're a Miami fan, I think we kind of always felt this way in terms of Miami just kind of lurking with Jaime Ffrench. I think they are one of the premier contenders for his commitment. And I am excited to hear kind of what the intel says coming out of this visit for the Miami Hurricanes. You got pretty much the whole 2025 class on campus for Miami. So an opportunity for Jaime Ffrench to, kind of get comfortable with this 2025 class. The next one I want to talk about, and, a guy that is just kind of flying under the radar because he's not as active in terms of posting on social media. You look at safety Bryce Fitzgerald. We kind of talked about Bryce Fitzgerald after DJ Pickett committed to LSU. I look at Bryce Fitzgerald and say, this would be a great pivot for Miami in the defensive back room. I think it starts with, and this is one of the premier ball hawking safeties you see in the 2025 cycle, picked off 10 passes during his junior year. The film absolutely backs it up. I mean, you look at Bryce Fitzgerald, whether he's operating as a single high or two high safety, this is a kid that just covers so much range in the back end. He kind of couples, some elite athletic traits in terms of the size, the frame, and the ability to cover a lot of distance, but also the instincts. I mean, this is a guy that is elite at reading quarterback's eyes and going up and grabbing the football. Again, we talk about Bryce Fitzgerald and Drake Stubbs, two of the premier free safeties in this 2025 cycle, two of the premier safeties in terms of taking the football away. And you put Bryce Fitzgerald and Drake Stubbs in the back end of this Miami Hurricanes defense over the next couple of years, we're going to see a lot of turnovers being created by these two kids. And again, I think would be a really strong pivot from a guy like DJ Pickett, who, again, I don't think Miami's going to give up on DJ Pickett. I think they still have a very good chance at having DJ Pickett in this 2025 class. But Bryce Fitzgerald would be a massive, massive get for this Miami Hurricanes program. Next one I want to talk about, Byron Lewis, coming from American Heritage. He's going to be on campus for Miami as well. And you talk about a running back that makes so much sense to pair up with Gerard Pringle. I think Byron Lewis would be that guy. And you've seen Miami, when they recruit running backs, they normally take 2 in a class, and they normally take running backs that, kind of balance each other out. You think about Mark Fletcher and Chris Johnson Jr., that kind of dynamic where you have your bruiser, your running back that's probably going to be a little bit more of a bell cow, and then you have a running back that can provide you a ton of juice in space. And that's kind of the dynamic I think you get with Byron Lewis and Gerard Pringle, where you look at Byron Lewis, 5'11", 200 pounds. This kid is a muscle hamster with a thick lower half. He deals with contact exceptionally well. He attacks the line of scrimmage. And then you look at Gerard Pringle and say, he's got the game-breaking speed that Byron Lewis probably doesn't have, right? The one kind of hole in Byron Lewis's game is maybe doesn't have that top-end breakaway speed. Gerard Pringle has that kind of speed. And so you look at how you want to use your running backs. You can use Byron Lewis in certain situations. You can use Gerard Pringle in certain situations. That's kind of how I see that running back dynamic kind of playing out. I think this would make a ton of sense for the Miami Hurricanes at that running back spot. Now, the last one I want to talk about, and a potential flip target for Miami, kind of a surprise visit here. Florida State commit Myron Charles also going to be on campus for this Miami Hurricanes program. If you've been listening to me talk about Myron Charles, you know I am a massive fan of him. Now, I think the talking point with Myron Charles is this kid has 5-star size and athleticism. You want to see a little bit more consistency from. The flashes on the film, all-American caliber player. Now, when you watch the full games, you sometimes see some of the effort level and the consistency not always there. We talk about this all the time. When you are trying to decide what high school kids you want to bet on, you want to bet on the guys that have those flashes and kind of try to figure out how to find that consistency. Myron Charles is one of those interior defensive linemen that you want to just bet on, because if he puts it together at the college level, you're looking at one of the premier disruptors on the inside of the defensive line. And we've seen Mario Cristobal really just not give up on the defensive lineman that he wants in his class. You go back to Justin Scott in the 2024 cycle, commits to Ohio State. Mario Cristobal does not give up, ends up landing him. I think Armando Blunt, a very similar situation where he kind of went back and forth. But hey, look, just because these kids are committed to some other program does not mean Mario Cristobal is going to give up on those prospects. He is one of the most, he just works. He's out, I guess, for a lack of better terms, he outworks a lot of other coaches on the recruiting trail, and he's not going to give up on the prospects that he wants in his classes. I think Myron Charles is certainly one of those guys. Really, really exciting bunch of talent for this Hurricanes program. Again, the 2026 class, I think, highlights the weekend, but I don't know enough about those guys to get up here and talk to you all about them. So I wanted to focus in on the 2025 class. We'll see what comes out of the weekend. We'll close it down there. Again, appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.